143 people present. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Good afternoon. I'm speaking from Rio de Janeiro, and I know there are lots of people from everywhere in Brazil, and it's really amazing. Thank you very much for your presence. It's very good to have you here. I would like to thank Disal for allowing me to start, the kickoff of the 2021 webinar series. Disal is excellent. They provide this space for us to do continuous professional development, and it's really great. Yes, I can see people from Curitiba, from Lindóia, from São Bernardo do Campo, from Minas Gerais, Porto Alegre. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you all here. So I'm Daniela Meyer. It's Meyer in Portuguese, but if we're speaking English, it's Meyer. So whichever. I'm a Cambridge academic consultant for Latin America South, mainly Brazil. But sometimes we go to Chile or to Argentina for sessions. And I was here last year. Then I did, I think, 2 sessions. You may have been in one of the webinars with me. And as I said, it's a pleasure. Hey, hello from Guatemala, Boa Vista, Roraima. Wonderful. São José dos Campos. See? Colombia. Hello, Colombia. It's great to have you all here. Thank you very, very much for joining me today. I hope we have an interesting hour together. Okay, so let me share the presentation. I hope you see my slides. If you don't, Petropolis. Yes, I'm usually in Petropolis, because I've been sitting out the pandemic or working from home from Petropolis because my mother lives in Petropolis. But today, Dublin, Ireland. Hello. Thank you. Thank you all. Wherever you're from, thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Bahia, Brazil. Thank you very much. So yes, I was in Petropolis, but today I'm in Rio de Janeiro, the capital and the state. Okay, so this is about remote teaching. So this means that I'm going to take it for granted that you are still at least partially remote teaching because you're here attending this session. And as I said, I'm Daniela Meyer. Here's my contact information. Feel free to take a picture. Actually, feel free to take a picture of any of these slides. Disal is recording the session, and then they upload it to their channel on YouTube. It may take a week or so. So if there's anything you must remember, you can't hear anything. Does everybody hear? Hello from the USA. Thanks for the invitation. Okay, I hope most people can hear me. I just saw one person saying, I can't hear you. It's probably something. Yes, it has started. Okay, so once again, here's my contact information, email, my phone number. That's the number I use, WhatsApp. And I also have an account in Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, it will be a pleasure. Thank you very much once again for your presence. So here we are. I am going to start by, actually, I have to show you the agenda. Okay, so I've done introductions and greetings, and also a little bit of housekeeping. Certificates. Disal issues certificates, but you actually have to attend the session. So if you do not attend, they will not give you a certificate. Duh, right? If you want to ask a question during the session, put it in chat box and make sure you add the question mark. Don't ask indirect questions, because at the end, I plan to have a 10-minute time for us to talk about your questions. And for me to identify the questions in chat box, you need to use a question mark, okay? What else do I have to tell you? Oh, yes. I hope to plant many seeds in your minds. I'm not here to only give you suggestions and ideas. I hope you leave this session with lots of questions and perhaps different perspectives to think about remote teaching. And I may have to ask you to do pair work with yourself, because I can't really do breakout rooms with 220, 29, 20, 30, 231 people. So, and it's going to be hard to ask you to work in pairs. So sometimes I may ask you to do a pair work with yourself, but that's always guarantee of an intelligent conversation, right? Okay. Yes, I sometimes do pair work with yourself. It's, where is it? Okay, so on to remote teaching. The first thing I want to do, if you'll bear along with me, is I'm going to read a testimonial to you from a teacher that lives and works in California. So she's an American teacher, and she wrote this testimonial 3 weeks into remote teaching. So last year, probably in March or the beginning of April. And I'd like you to pay attention and see if there's anything that you relate to in her testimonial, okay? So here goes. I just completed week 3 of distance learning, and it feels as if I'm weathering a storm. Some days I am barely holding things together. Between all of the new information and directives that seem to change almost daily, to the unimaginable task of changing everything I've ever known about teaching in less than 24 working hours, and adding in the stress of working from home while simultaneously trying to still be a good mother and wife, I'm ready to throw in the towel. I've already checked. I don't have enough banked sick days to sit the rest of this pandemic out. And even if I did have enough days stocked away, I couldn't even bring myself to do that. I am constantly thinking about work. Multiple times since we've started our statewide stay-at-home order, I'm in California, I've woken up with worry, and I have not been able to fall back asleep easily. So the long and the short of this is, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I am in this with you. Since there isn't much anyone can do to help rectify this situation immediately, I am trying my best. So this is her testimonial. Unfortunately, I do not have her name, but I imagine it resonates with you all. So the first thing I would like to do is kudos to you. Congratulations. You are doing your best. You have been doing your best. You have probably been remote teaching since last year, and congratulations. It's really, really incredible, because the speed with which this move to online instruction happened is unprecedented and staggering. Fantastic job. Great job. I'm sure you're all doing your best, right? So having said this, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to suppose that all of you are at least partially remote teaching still, because you may be doing hybrid, you may be doing some blended learning, you may be doing face-to-face in the new normal, quasi-normal, not so normal. But I'm going to suppose most of you are also still doing some remote teaching because you're here. So what are we going to be? First thing I would like you to do now is to do this pair work with yourself. Ask yourself, please, what worked well last year and what was a challenge? Don't need to use the chat box, just individual thinking. What worked well? Try to focus on one thing. I'm sure many things worked well and many things were a challenge. But if you had to choose one thing, what worked well? And what was a challenge? Ask yourself. And also ask yourself, what did I learn? So what did you learn last year during your remote teaching experience? If you started remote teaching now, I mean, this year, 2021, it's okay. What did you learn so far, or have you learned so far? And also, what are you going to focus on in 2021? So based on these questions, what worked well in your remote teaching? What was a challenge? What did you learn? And what are you going to focus on in 2021? Did you finish the conversation with yourself? Okay. So if you could perhaps put in chat box just one word in, well, it's hard to do it in one word, but try to be as succinct as possible. What are you going to focus on in 2021 based on all of this that you have thought about? If you think about your experience, what do you want to focus on in 2021 in order to improve your remote teaching experience? Somebody has already said empathy, autonomy, digital tools, timing, motivating students, technology improvement, yes. Conversation with students, online materials to share, creative activities planning, improve technologically. Lots of interesting answers in chat box. Autonomy, interchange ideas and knowledge, conversation. Excellent. So you are more students in classes. Yes, very good answers. Thank you. So what I have to propose, many of you said technology, many of you said learning more about technology and using materials online, games, interaction. Yes, so my first suggestion to you is take it slowly. Give yourself some grace and give your students grace too, right? You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to learn it all at once. You don't have to use everything that is available. There is a lot that is to be had online, but take it one step at a time. Exactly, baby steps, Alex. Alex Silva says, use baby steps. I suggest one step at a time. Take it slowly. If there's something you learned, and you want to use it, perhaps use it for a full month with all your classes, and then go on to another new app or new technological aspect or new idea, new technique. Take it one step at a time. The other idea I have for you is we have to consider all of these approaches to remote learning. Online instruction has had and still has several different names. There's online learning, there's distance learning, there's blended learning, there's hybrid learning, there's flipped classrooms. What we did last year was really emergency remote teaching. What is the biggest difference between emergency remote teaching and all the other names on this slide? Can you use chat box, please, just in chat box? Yes, but if you were not prepared, and in 2021 you're better prepared, absolutely. When the pandemic started last year, it was almost like we had to become instructional MacGyvers. You remember MacGyver? We had to improvise quick solutions in less than ideal circumstances, right? So now it's not a more emergency remote teaching anymore, because we learned last year, right? But it's still remote teaching. We had no options last year. But you also notice that all the other names have learning. They focus on learning. It's online learning, it's distance learning, it's blended learning, it's hybrid learning, but the remote is remote teaching. Why? Because it was just as much as we could handle, right? We survived after the emergency. But everything else is called learning. So in case of remote teaching, at first, we didn't really think about the students or whether they were learning. I mean, we did, but that wasn't the biggest problem in the beginning, right? So the other piece of suggestion that I have to give is to how are you going to decide and choose what to use or how to use what's available, because there are thousands of blogs, ideas, suggestions, sites, many things. Your course books probably have tons of ideas, and then there are platforms and etc. So how do you choose and decide what to use during your remote teaching and learning? I suggest you focus on the students, on student learning. What is it that you want your students to be able to do at the end of a class or at the end of a unit or at the end of a lesson? You have to have that very clear in your mind in order to be able to decide what you're going to use. So you want your students to have this feeling of success, this feeling of achievement, right? And you can only help them get to this stage if you know what you want them to learn. If you know, if it's very clear what the learning objectives are for each class, then you will be able to decide which techniques, activities, sites to choose from, apps, technology. It is overwhelming a bit, as someone has written on Nara, I think it is, in chat box. But if you focus on the learning objective, on where you want your students to be at the end of a class, then it's going to be easier for you. Okay? Let me see. Yes. Okay. So, yes, somebody says, in short, whether it's in person or distance learning, the goal is the same. Exactly, Wagner. The goal is to get the students to move from where they are to a different place for them to learn something. And remember that learning is a social and cognitive process. It's not just cognitive, right? They need to have the social interactions too. Ideally, they would need to interact with the content. There's a student content interaction, there's a student interaction, and a student instructor interaction. Could I please go back to the previous slide again? Which one? This one? Ursula. This one? How do I choose and or decide? Yes, I think the ideal circumstances for us to choose based on what we want our students to learn. Okay? So if we think again about remote teaching and the concepts behind remote teaching, I've said that there's online learning and distance learning, there's distributed learning, mobile learning, lots of learning that happens online. But what we were doing was considered remote teaching, and now it's not emergency remote teaching anymore unless you're starting now. But even if you're starting now, you're probably better prepared than you were last year, right? Okay. So look what I found the other day. I was going through my Instagram account and I read this. It says, ensino remoto não é tela o dia todo. Do you know who said this? You will be amazed. This sentence was said by Zach Yesko. He's Google for Education manager, and he was in charge of creating Google Classroom. Okay, so even if you're not using Google Classroom, even if you're not using Google, if you're on a different platform, remember, remote teaching is not students sitting and looking at us on screen every day. The whole day, actually. Not every day, not even the whole day. And why is that? Because as you know, there are synchronous things to do and asynchronous things to do. The difference is that the synchronous activities, everybody is together online at the same time. And the asynchronous activities, they don't need to be all together online at the same time. Okay? So how does this affect us? How can we do with this? What can we do with this idea? We need to ask ourselves, how else can students learn? Well, because actually, if they sit there with their cameras closed and their mics closed, and we do all the talking, they're not really going to be learning a lot, because that's not the ideal situation. So when we talk about how else students can learn, I remember this saying that I learned many, many years ago when I was starting to teach. Someone told me, give them what they want in order to be able to give them what we want. So we need to ask ourselves, what do my students want? What do they like? Is it videos? Is it YouTube videos? Is it songs, vlogs, TikTok? Whatever it is, based, of course, depending on their age, on their interests, on the learning objectives that we have. But if we can disguise or involve them, engage them, using the things that they know and that they like, it's going to be easier to give them what we want. So even TikTok, if they want to create TikTok, and then you can find a way to make them talk about TikTok or make them use language or structures, anything, it's good. It's excellent. So this is something to think about. Give them what they want in order to be able to give them what we want. Sometimes even videos that are online. For example, I am a fan of Peppa Pig in English. I have a nephew who's 3.5 years old, and he is totally bilingual, and he started learning with Peppa Pig because she is adorable in English, and she teaches lots of interesting things in vocabulary and social values and everything. So yes, somebody's saying, Karen is saying, they need to be involved in production. That's something else that preteens and teens love. They're always sharing stuff on their own when they're not in class. So can they do it in class? Can they do it outside class or before class in order to be more engaged and more involved? So this is what we have to try to find out. It's a tip, an idea for you, that you try to find out what it is that they like, in order, so you give them what they want in order to be able to give them what we want. Okay? Right. So the other thing I want to ask you now is, do you currently adopt Cambridge books, Cambridge series? I'm going to give you a, no, this is not what I want, sorry. I'm going to give you a research. I'm going to ask you to vote here, please. Do you see the question online on the slide? So please vote here. If you adopt, do you currently use Cambridge series with your students? Don't use the chat box, please. Vote using the poll here on the slide. Have you used the poll here? Half of you have. Lots of people saying yes, you use Cambridge series. Let's see what the final answer is. And I also see your answers in chat box. Many of you are saying which textbooks and which course books it doesn't matter. What happens is I'm going to share some remote teaching guides with you. And if you use Cambridge material, you're going to be able to look at the specific one for the material that you're using. If you don't use Cambridge material, then you're going to be able to adapt it anyway. So it's not a problem. I just want to have a sense. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this now. Let's see what the results were. What time is it? Yes, it's okay. Okay, so we had 60% of people voting, and most of you use Cambridge books, which is great. So let's go back here. All right. So what I said is I'm going to share some guides with you. So I'm going to share the Cambridge remote teaching guides, and I'm going to give you some ideas for your remote teaching and learning. Remember to include learning. We want to see learning in these remote classes. So these remote teaching guides, that even if you do not use the Cambridge series, you can still adapt for your series. I want to show you how. They are going to tell us when to use live lessons online, when to use discussion forums, and these discussion forums can be suggested or led by the teachers, but they are asynchronous. Not all the students and the teachers have to be together at the same time. We also have collaborative group tasks that are going to be done by the students on their own without the teacher and not in class. There may be, you may suggest individual self-study, either by using their course book or a platform that you may have. Cambridge already has platforms embedded in most of our books, but you may use other platforms. And also there are times that you're going to need parental support, especially for pre-primary kids, and sometimes even for the first few years of primary, right? And so here's an example of one of the Cambridge remote teaching guides. This is a book for pre-primary, and then it tells you, look, we suggest you do this part with an online class, like everybody online together. Then we suggest you do this other part using the screen sharing and the chat box. We also have things like this. We tell you the screen sharing is good for giving instructions, setting up tasks, presenting grammar or vocabulary, for example. Cambridge has a tool called Presentation Plus that lets you project everything online. The student's book, the workbook, there's the teacher's book, everything together. Yes, Pedro is saying he really loves to use Presentation Plus. Yes, even if you don't have it, it's okay. You're going to be able to use these ideas to help you adapt your series to use with the remote teaching and learning situation. Also, you see that there is a link to be followed. How can I use chat box? And how can I use it to my benefit and to students' benefit? So there are links and suggestions. You will also find in these guides suggestions of other sites like this one, World of Fun. It's a resource center with tips and materials for everybody. It's really meant for people that are preparing students for the young learners examinations, but you can use it for all your other students that are of this age, sort of Fundamental 1 age group. You also have, like when we're talking about the preteens and the teens, we already suggest ideas for breakout rooms that you can use in Google Meet or in Zoom or in Teams. I'm going to tell you about the guides, where you get them, Karen, just a second. So there's a lot of explanation and suggestions. So even if, like I said, if you're not using a Cambridge book, but you need to give instructions, this is going to help you. It's going to say, look, when you're giving instructions, it's better to be screen sharing with the whole group. When you're closing the lesson or checking concepts, you can use the chat box. When you are comparing answers after a task, you can use the breakout rooms. So, here are some ideas for pre-primary and the first few years of primary. You can start your lesson with everybody online with a song or a game, a song like Simon Says, or a game. Include TPR, have them move and do things, even if they're not kids, right? You can also use these class management chants. Here's an example. I don't know if you know this one or if you use this one, but if kids start to get too fidgety, you can say, eyes on the door, feet on the floor, hands behind your back, and say no more. They love these things. Also, shout-outs. Have you tried shout-outs? Here are a few that you can use. Like, for example, you say hocus pocus, and everybody says, everybody focus. Or teacher says, all set, and you all say, you bet. Or I say, oh, me, and you say, oh, my. And you can add, hand movements. Or you say, chico, chico, and the students say, boom, boom. This is excellent too. Right? Oh, Karen says she has a list of shout outs. Excellent. So here's some shout outs that we suggest and we recommend for pre-primary and perhaps primary. If we're thinking about secondary or Fundamental 2 or preteens and teens, there are other things that we can do that are recommended in these remote teaching guides. So I have already mentioned what should we do with screen sharing? What should we do in chat box? What should we do in breakout rooms? Remember, these are suggestions, but there may be something to be learned for you there. Also, how can you deal with breakout rooms with preteens and teens in a more effective way? So there are links to other articles and places. You see, for example, for teens, you can use discussion forums, you can use video or audio recordings that they make. Students make their own short video recordings, but you have to be very clear what language you want in there, or what vocabulary or what structures they have to include, right? It's not just making video for the sake of it. Here, Daniela. This slide you needed? I hope so. Can I go on? Okay. So even collaborative writing tools like Google Docs, they can work together online to write and edit a document. And the teacher does not have to be there. This does not have to be a synchronous activity. It can be asynchronous. So here's where you find them. This is the site. It's called cambridgetogether.org. And when you click on cambridgetogether.org, this is what you're going to see. It's Cambridge University Press and Cambridge Assessment together to help you during these difficult times, right? Unprecedented times. So this is what it's going to look like. It's a site that says we're supporting teachers, learners, and institutions together, okay? And then you scroll down, and you're going to see these two boxes. So there's free exam preparation with lots of ideas, free resources and activities, and you can use them even if you're not preparing students for exams. And you can, here's where the remote teaching guides are. The remote teaching guides are in teaching your course remotely. Okay, let me just show you what else is in the site. I'll repeat the site address in a minute, just a sec. So there's support when you need it most, with resources, blogs, and advice on several different topics, and also experts together. So all of this is available. Yes, Teresa Cristina, thank you. Teresa Cristina put the site in chat box. It's cambridgetogether.org. Thank you very much. So you see, so you find this, you scroll down, you go to cambridgetogether.org, you scroll down and you find this, teaching your course remotely, okay? And then click on find out more, and then scroll down until you find this bluish rectangle with all the age groups. So if you teach a Cambridge with a Cambridge series, or if you don't, you just find the correct age group, okay? In this case, to show you, I selected adult. So when I selected adult, I see all of the adult course books for Cambridge. And then suppose I go to Interchange. If I click here on Interchange, the logo, it takes us to the Interchange specific page. If I click on audio, it takes you to the specific page for the audios for this series. Other resources are obviously other resources, and remote teaching is where you get the remote teaching guides. Sorry, clicked on the wrong button. So you're going to see something like this, like the Interchange page, and then it says how to teach remotely with Interchange. So it tells you here, what to do with the live lessons online and the discussion forums, the collaborative group tasks, and etc. This is where the guides are. Do you see a dark rectangle, almost black, grayish black? You can read online. You don't have to download it. If you just click on the full screen, you can read all of it online and get all the ideas. Or you can download it here on you see the button that says download on the top left corner? You can download it, okay? If you're not using Interchange, if you're not using a Cambridge series, but you still want the ideas for your adult groups, you can go to Interchange or any other Cambridge adult series and see what you can adapt and what you can include using other series. It's okay. It's available for everyone. Okay, the other thing we have to talk about is assessment. What does assessment look like when we're doing remote teaching and learning, right? And I don't know if you have seen this, but I found this picture on Instagram. I really like this Instagram account. It's called We Are Teachers. And okay, this is a teacher from the United States. I don't know if you can see the sign that she's holding. And she's saying state testing needs to be canceled because we are in the middle of a global pandemic. She didn't need to say global pandemic, right? That is a pleonasm because the pandemic is always global. But anyway, so the teachers in public schools in America, in USA actually, are asking for the tests, the state testing, the official tests to be canceled because of the pandemic. So what does this mean? This means that assessment needs to be revised, needs to be rethought. If we're doing remote teaching, if we're giving students grace, if we're focusing on conversation, on engaging students, on whatever it is that we're doing, we need to rethink assessment. We need assessment to be appropriate, to be adequate, to ask them what they have learned, right? So make sure you think about that. Make sure that your assessment, tests, quizzes, activities, whatever, are appropriate for the kind of teaching and learning that is happening right now. I know this is easier said than done because, we have to deal with schools and rules and coordination, but do your best. Do your best to make your tests and quizzes and activities and tasks appropriate for what you're teaching and what your students are doing, okay? Or are learning, actually. There are a few other resources that I would like to share with you before I move to our question and answer session. Remember, if you want to ask me a question, make sure you include a question mark, because when I finish, I'm going to be able to select all the questions that have a question mark. So don't forget to add a question mark if you want to have your question talked about. So here's a compilation of some of the sites. I mentioned just a few. Well, the first one is the one that has the remote teaching guides. It says Cambridge, it's cambridgetogether.org. I think I saw someone in chat box saying, I only got samples. No, you don't get samples. If you go there and you choose your appropriate age group and then you choose the series that you're using with Cambridge, you get a full remote teaching guide. You can read online or you can download it, right? And if you're not good, Maura, yes, you do get the full remote teaching guide. Like I said, you can either download them or you can read online. There are many other Cambridge sites to help you with. Oh yes, Cambridge has lots of multimedia books. Yes, contact me if you still have a problem. No problem at all. Almost all of Cambridge series have multimedia books. These are questions for later. Let me finish this slide. So we also have a Cambridge Life Competencies framework that has lots of interesting ideas on how to include, yes, everything is free. Everything that I'm sharing on this slide is free for everybody. So we have the Cambridge Life Competencies framework that has tons of ideas on how to include critical thinking, how to include collaboration, how to include learning to learn. We have free Cambridge Kahoots. Ask Google. We have the free Cambridge Dictionary Online that has tests, has quizzes, has grammar. It's not just a dictionary. There's the World of Better Learning blog. This one's specifically for you teachers. So it has ideas, it has techniques, it has advice. There's Cambridge's YouTube channel with all of the sessions and the webinars that we teach, everything that is there for you teachers. And there's also the Learn English with Cambridge site on YouTube. That's appropriate either for us if we want to perfect our English or for students, okay? So you can use them however you wish. If you're teaching hybrid learning, which is yet a completely different situation and very complicated in my opinion, we have in the World of Better Learning blog, we have just published two blog entries on hybrid classrooms. So if you want to go to, if you want information on hybrid learning and hybrid classroom, there you can go to our World of Better Learning blog. And if you Google World of Better Learning blog, you also go there, but it's here, right? World of Better Learning blog. Okay? Yes, I wouldn't want to be hybrid teaching right now. I can't even begin to think about it. Okay. Did I forget anything? No. Okay. So here's our question and answer moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to promise to have answers to all your questions, but I can try. I'm going to try. So where do I go? I think I go here, PNR. Yes. So I'm not going to choose these questions. These questions are chosen randomly by the computer, okay? So I think this one, oh, somebody, how can I use videos in class? Whenever I try, the audio is broken. Whose audio is broken? Your audio, the student's audio? This is difficult for me to answer because you need an IT person. If the audio is not working, it may be a problem of configuration. There are so many problems. I wouldn't know. Let me see this one. Hybrid teaching. Sorry, Saulo, no, I can't. First of all, because I haven't done any hybrid teaching ever in my whole life. And also because this would probably take another hour or so, right? So perhaps I can prepare myself to teach a session on hybrid teaching. But right now, the only thing I have to suggest is go to our blog, the World of Better Learning blog, and read the sessions there because there's some there are some real life tips and suggestions. Okay? Let me see. Oh, I knew this one was going to show up. This is another question. How do we ask students to turn on their cameras? This has been the $64,000 question the whole year, right? So tough, Cynthia. It's tough. Depends on their age. I think it helps if you let them know in advance that they're going to be expected to have their cameras on at this time of the class and at this time of the class, and not necessarily all of the time. The other day I was having a webinar with all of these people from Cambridge around the world, and we got a sort of a document before the webinar, and we were told that we had to log in with the camera open and the mics open, and then we were going to be expected to turn on the camera and the mics at this other moment. This might help. But I think more important than having their cameras open is for them to have their mics open and to answer what you're saying. Because one person, I was going to tell you about this, one person from Cambridge in the UK or in Russia, I forget whom, an adult who was, in a professional online environment, she said, I am very shy, I am very introverted, and I feel very awkward to be looking at myself, because we can see ourselves on camera for all of this time. It's almost like I'm having a face-to-face conversation, eye to eye with everybody for 50 minutes or 1 hour. So this is really difficult and complicated, but I think if you tell them what your expectations are and you choose important moments to have them or ask them to have their cameras on, it might be helpful. But if they don't turn their cameras on, but if they answer your questions and you recognize your voice and you can tell that they're learning and that they're achieving, the learning objectives, then might be good. Let me see what else I have in terms of questions. Oops. Question. Here's another one. Yes. Can you possibly make students do physical activities? Yes. Some kinesthetic learning style? Yes, you may. Yes, you should. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. I was actually going to show you one, warmer that can be done with any sort of students, but I didn't think I was going to have time. So, but you can. You want me to try? Do you want to try that, Louise and everybody else? I have a very interesting warmer. It could be a warmer or it could be a review that includes TPR, total physical response. Let's try that for 2 minutes. Suppose I want to practice with you, or I want to review I am and I am not, okay? And in this case, I want you to move. So you need to pull your chair back. Ideally, everybody has their cameras on, right? Don't need mics on. But even if they don't have their cameras on, it might work. For example, everything I'm going to say sentences using I'm, if it's correct for you too, you repeat and you change your position. If you're sitting, you stand. If you're standing, you sit. Okay? So let's have an example. Suppose I say, I'm Daniela. If you are also Daniela, you stand up. Are there any Danielas there? I think so. So only the Danielas stand up and repeat the sentence. So if you are Daniela, you're going to say, I'm Daniela. If you are not, you be quiet and sit still. Okay? You got it? So let's practice. Everybody sitting down. I'm going to say a sentence. If the sentence is true for you too, you say the sentence and you change positions. Okay? So let's go. I'm Brazilian. I'm divorced. I'm a woman. I'm tall. I'm not stupid. I'm cute. I'm from Rio de Janeiro. Got it? This includes kinesthetic, it includes movement. It's good for any age group. It's good to make their minds, work better. And it's also something that you can change the structure. It can be I am, I was, I have been, I am going to, anything. Let me see another question. Yes, that's not a question. I don't know why the computer. I don't know why the computer. Thank you, Simeon. You are there? Let me see. Ana Paula. From my experience, it depends on the. Okay. This is somebody helping the person with the video problem. Is there anything we should not do in online teaching? That's an interesting question, Marcus. I don't know. I think it depends, first of all, on your student's age. There are some things that we can do with older students that we don't do with younger students, and vice versa, right? You don't do flashcards with cute little, animals for adults. You may once in a while, just for the sake of it, but I can't think of anything that you should not do right now. Of course, taking into consideration your students' age and interests and, the size of the group. It depends. In this case, we have now 317 participants. I can't do breakout rooms. I can't do pair work, real pair work, right? But no. But if I think of something, I will tell you one day. I have another question here. Why is an Interchange app 5th edition working? It's not working. It should be working. Last time I used it, it was working, Marta. If it isn't working for you, make sure to talk to Atendimento in Cambridge. You send an email to atendimento.br@cambridge.org. Okay? And they will help you with that. Let me see. How do I find the other questions? Oops. What am I doing? I've done this one. I see. I have to go up here. I'm sorry. Okay. It's not a question. Thank you very much. It's not a question either. I think you don't have any more questions. If you have any other questions, write them there. Let me see if I can find any other question. It's probably going to be our last. Okay, here's Fatima's question. How do I manage different students' levels in the same group? Fatima, I think every group, always. I have been teaching for about 40 years. I started very young. I must have been 3 or 4. Okay? And every single group that I have had has had different level of students in the group. So I think that is a given. It's always going to be, someone knows a bit more about this or about that. There are so many ideas. One of the ideas is pairing. Sometimes you pair the ones that know more with the ones that know more, and the ones that know less with the ones that know less. In other classes, you change. You pair the ones that know more with the ones that know less. That's one of the techniques. The other technique is to elicit a lot and let the ones that know more help you. What else can you do? You can give them different time to do things. Like many of our Cambridge books have, I forgot to do something. Excuse me, just a sec. But I was going to say many of our Cambridge books have suggestions for fast finishers. Usually the ones that are more prepared or that have already learned some English finish fast. So many of our series have extra activities for fast finishers. So these are a few ideas for you to use, but there are many more really. So I just don't, these are three that come to my mind right now. Let me see another one. Hello, Gabriele from Bela Vista, Roraima. Do you have references? Yes, I'm going to share the references at the end. It's going to be my almost next to last slide, Gabriele. And you can always Google, right? So look in Cambridge's blog, World of Better Learning, Google remote teaching. There are these Instagram accounts that I mentioned, and you're going to see the reference slide, okay? Yes, I just said someone saying, I think it's Cynthia. Cynthia saying music and important too. Yes, music is very important. You know what I do with my students before I take this last question? I ask them to be in charge of the music. You know, I put them together in small groups for a music project. I have always done this, and I'm still doing it in remote teaching mode, right? I put them in groups of 3 or 4, and I ask them to find a song, bring the song to class, do the exercise that everybody's going to have to work on. Of course, this has to go by me before, right? Not only, and I tell them they can't bring songs with taboo words if they're teenagers. If they're adults, depends. Then we can discuss this in the class. Okay, so music is absolutely important. It's something that they love, and if they are in charge of choosing the song, you know, they have to work collaboratively in their groups to figure out which song they're going to bring, what kind of exercise they're going to propose, and etc. It becomes something that they can work on, and they have to learn the lyrics, and they have to be able to explain very, very good. A music project where the students are in charge, not the teacher. Samira, then, this is going to be my last question this time. Samira is asking, which Cambridge book series do you recommend for adults, not business? There are many. Interchange is in its 5th edition. It has had more than 50 million students worldwide. There's Evolve, that is our newest. It's also for adults, and it's amazing. So giving you 2 already. You can go to our site. If you want to look for specific book, you go cambridge.org/interchange or cambridge.org/evolve. It's always like this, cambridge.org/name of the book. So here are 2. There are many more if you look under adults on Cambridge site. Okay? So let me show you the last 2 slides. Here we are. We've done, well, it doesn't want to go forward. There. Okay, here's the reference that I mentioned. So make sure you take a picture if you're interested, or I'm not going to be sharing my slides with you, but Disal has recorded the whole session with the slides, and they're going to upload it to their channel in a week or so. So you can see it again, watch it again, pay attention, take a picture of all the slides, and etc. Okay? So thank you very much for staying here with me all this time. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas and your thoughts in chat box. Here's my contact information again. If there's anything you need and you want to talk to me or you want to contact me, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it will be a pleasure. I'll follow you back. And let me know if there's any question. I'm sorry, I didn't select questions. You know, I just clicked. The computer is sort of selecting them for me. If your question didn't get answered, I'm sorry, but you can send me your question. You can ask me through WhatsApp or Instagram or even email. Okay? Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. And make sure you enjoy yourselves and do your best to engage your students. We are going through unprecedented times, and you have been doing an excellent job. I'm sure you have, and you will keep on doing an excellent job. Congratulations once again. Thank you very much. Bye bye.